Assalamu alaikum, everybody. How are you guys? Time's running out. Okay. So growing up, there's a lot of inefficiencies throughout society that I've seen, and I've always wondered how we can improve upon them. Everybody carries a wallet, and it's very inconvenient. And I'm sure, how many people in the audience, for example, know that terrifying feeling of leaving your wallet somewhere or misplacing it? Almost everybody, right? Inshallah, we intend to make wallets completely obsolete. So Biyo is actually a secure identification platform. Our company started as a consulting firm. We developed software, and then we moved on and developed the first biometric POS system. So basically, think about it this way. You're going to the supermarket, you buy your stuff, you go up, and then you swipe your credit card. The machine then asks if you want to link that credit card to your palm. So we use palm vein pattern recognition to identify each person, and actually palm vein patterns are more unique than fingerprints. And they're contactless, you don't leave any traces, and even if you have dirt or cuts on your hand, it still reads perfectly fine. So we're using this to link your credit cards to your palm. So next time you go to the store, or any other store that has our system, all you need to do is scan your palm and it pulls up all of your credit cards. And I know saying this sometimes hard to believe. I had a lot of people say, I don't understand. Like you basically pay with your hand. Come to the booth and check it out. It's actually really cool. You got to see it to believe it. And the best part is you can't forget it on the bus. So imagine going to any store that has our system, scanning your palm, and all of your points, every dollar that you spent, you get rewarded for it without needing to carry any of those keychain cards that nobody likes to carry anyway, or enrolling and signing up those forms that nobody likes to fill out. So, or imagine sending money, for example, to one of your family members, and all they have to do is walk up, place their palm, and the money just pulls up right away. So it's really a very flexible platform, and we can integrate any payment method that comes either now in the future, such as Apple Pay or Bitcoins, if we wanted to, because the platform is very flexible, and it's free for consumers forever. So this is my team. Over the years, we've built a great team. On the top left is my co-founder, my Turkish co-founder. He's my best friend. We got in trouble for hacking in high school. That's kind of our bonding moment. And he's also the token white guy in the company when we're meeting investors, and I'm the scary guy with the beard. He helps with that. And then we have a law firm on our team, and then Fujitsu and Global Payments are both our partners. Global Payments helps with the compliance and the credit card processing aspect, and Fujitsu actually we license. They help us with marketing, and they license the technology itself. So it's really, we built a really great team. So a distribution strategy has multiple components. On the top you have obviously equipment vendors who are looking for POS systems to resell, and then you have banks and ISOs looking for secure solutions for their clients that have already credit card processing and they want a POS system. And then we have a small sales team. We just launched last month actually, and we have already a couple of stores using it, and they absolutely love the system. And then third or fourth, but not least, is custom solutions. Since, like I said, we do biometric consulting, there's a lot of interest, for example, abroad in Dubai and other places such as hotels that are looking for cashless solutions, and basically we've already built a platform, so we're helping them with that. So our financials are pretty simple. We monetize in several ways. We have hardware sales, obviously, but we also charge a per transaction fee that is comparable to existing fees. We have a monthly service fee, and like I said, we're piloting in a couple locations now. And we basically make revenue on the per transaction fee and the per transaction fee and the hardware fees. And the 5-year roadmap, we want to develop a standalone module that basically plugs into existing POS systems, and those are our goals. So challenges and opportunities. To make this dream happen, I've been working 3 jobs for the last 3 years, and so has my co-founder. And we've been working very hard. It's not just an app, it's also hardware, software, everything. And also we're in a very heavily regulated industry. But despite working a lot of hours, alhamdulillah, we've been on Fox Business Live, NBC, CNBC, and more than 100 different news sites. And my dream, inshallah, is to create an incubator for young Muslim entrepreneurs.
I'm a great presentation, but when the light is shining on you, it's difficult to look into the crowd. But if you don't mind me taking a quick poll, how many of you in the audience today think the future belongs to Microsoft? Can you raise your hands? All right, I see 1 or 2, but very few. The future belongs to Apple, iOS. A few more. The future belongs to Android. All right, I think Ayman, you got a message. The future belongs to maybe Android or iOS. Talk a little bit about your choice for technology platform between Windows, iOS, Android. What are your migration plans? How you see merchants adapting different platforms?
Sure, good question. So actually, our software is operating system agnostic. It doesn't matter what operating system. We can plug it into any operating system. The key here is basically that not everybody has a smartphone, but everybody has a hand. So we're actually reducing the barriers in that sense by removing the fact that you need an app and you have to set up the app and pull out the app. A lot of people find that inconvenient. NFC doesn't really work that well, as a lot of people know. So actually, our system doesn't matter what platform it's on. It works, and it's all in the cloud, and that's basically the cool part about it.
Awesome. And so what Ayman is trying to do is the next time you'll be picked for your palm, and so someone's going to force you to get your ATM machine being used, and they're going to take your palm for it, so be careful.
Actually, the most frequent asked question is, what if someone cuts off your hand?
I guess you would say that the dead, it's not going to work with
no, it doesn't work.
life.
It doesn't work in case you want to.
But it's always good to see a management team with a token white person, though. So I do congratulate you.
Yeah.
You're in an incredibly crowded space right now.
Yes, we are.
And it's also a space that is absolutely ripe for disruption because of all the apps out there, all the widget makers. It's still sitting on top of technology built for an industry 40, 50 years ago. To what extent have you thought of going beyond simply an app that sits on top of that technology and integrating yourself into that infrastructure in a much more disruptive fashion? And do you have the capability to do that?
Right. Well, like I said in the presentation, our next step is actually to create a small piece of hardware that plugs into all existing POS systems. That way, it doesn't matter what any of the merchants are using. The customer just walks up and swipes their palm.
But you're still dependent on a payment system that's driven by the financial services industry, primarily coming out of North America and Europe. And those institutions are desperate for really disruptive innovation that changes not only the apps that sit on top of the infrastructure, but the economic model that it creates.
Yeah, so that's a good question. You're right, it's dominated by credit cards and all that stuff, but the way we built our platform is that you can incorporate other completely different types of payment methods. For example, like I said, Bitcoin, which is currently on the brink of who knows what, it's an experiment. But in order to do other cool things, you have to become a money services business, and that's a very highly regulated, obviously, industry if you want to go in there. Right now, we're kind of riding the wave and seeing where the market goes as far as the different financial technologies, but we can definitely implement anything.
Yeah, and that would be my only advice to you, really, because there's a lot happening in this industry right now around innovation, and there's a lot of money being thrown at it from big financial institutions that were caught flat-footed in 2008. And I just encourage you to really network with those people in the industry that will really respect what you have from a development point of view, an R&D point of view, and could define the applications they're looking for that push much deeper into the infrastructure, into the operating systems.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
If I could add to that, I think Larry makes a very, very good point. It's way crowded the space, right? You go from Square to iZettle to Revel. You know the names. There are like 25 companies trying to make the same thing. You have a differentiated approach, which is obviously the palm. The one thing you may... Exactly. So just across the river. The one thing you might want to try and do in terms of innovation is the problem that you face with all the breaches that have happened, whether it be Target or Walmart or all the kind of retailers that you talk about, you can actually turn it on its head. And the innovation would happen if you could make the payer initiate the payment onto the merchant and nothing gets stored at the merchant's end. So think about certain innovation. Maybe you're thinking about it. We'd love to hear that. What is really innovative in this competitive
Actually,
landscape?
our system doesn't store anything on the local system. Everything is actually stored with the bank. So when I scan my palm, it basically tells the bank to charge the card. So there's literally no way that those credit cards can be breached on the merchant side. So they're completely safe from that perspective.
But just quickly, that's the point. The banks still have the data. And in a big data era, give that some thought.
Yeah. I mean, someone has to have the data, unfortunately.
At this point, you can pose challenges.
Okay, sure. One question I have is, what are the best avenues for Muslim entrepreneurs to raise money? Because I ask because there's a lot of debt-based or loan-based ways you could raise money relatively easily, but for most entrepreneurs, those things are kind of out of the question. So what do you guys think is...
One of the things I would do is look at the venture funds that are being set up by big financial institutions. Morgan Stanley, for example, has a very aggressive fund. And they recognize that not everybody needs $50 million, $100 million, but they really look for disruptive innovation. Coming out of Canada, the big banks, OMERS, the pension fund, have set up something called 111 in downtown Toronto, semi-partnership with Google, looking at this kind of innovation. So I think despite the fact that it's a conservative industry that has been beaten up over the last 5 or 6 years, they know they need what you have. And if you begin to network more aggressively into the industry itself, and you know who to talk to, because they're very good at filtering the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah.
But if you know who to talk to and you really can demonstrate metric-centric innovation, you've got a good model.
Okay. My other question is, do I have time? What are your recommendations regarding when to basically quit your other jobs in order to commit full-time to a startup?
You can't swim if you don't jump into the pool. So you can't start a company if you can't do it. So you got to do that. That's the biggest test in terms of being a venture capitalist when I'm looking to give someone money. The biggest negative indicator of someone coming to look for money is the person is still employed at a particular big firm, which means the person just cannot take the risk. And that's a complete non-starter.
Yeah, we tell everyone if you're still hedging your bets, we're not ready to bet on you.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of unique because in software, you always have to be developing. Like, there's never, like, you can't, there's no finishing point where you're like, okay, the product's done, now I just got to sell it, unfortunately. So if I stop, then...
yeah, but if you don't believe in it enough to take that risk, how can you expect someone else to?
Fair enough, yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
it's
of
a
course.
cold, hard world, and that's how people look at it.
Okay, excellent.
You have 10 seconds to close up, then we have 1 minute for the rest.
Okay. At what point should we consider international contracts over our local endeavors? Because we've gotten a lot of interest overseas, and I don't really know whether we should pursue them or we should just focus in the Northeast, even though they might be bigger contracts in the short term.
Quickly, but watch the regulatory environment. That's going to be your biggest hurdle as you begin to jump into the international markets. And given where you are, that can really slow you down.
Okay.
What I'd add to Larry's comment is let your customers take you there. Because if you win the US, you don't need to win the rest of the world. If you win parts of the rest of the world and you lose the US, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And then we have a little less than a minute for any of the panelists. I'll just say quickly that at the stage you're at, you might be better off just getting angel investors, proving the concept, getting mass beta. I would forget about overseas. I would just focus on getting some success and metrics and traction behind what you're doing. And I agree 100% with the other panelists. You cannot do this part-time. That's just not acceptable. You really have to take the leap and do it full-time if you plan
Well, I'm
to be
doing this
successful.
full-time. I'm just doing 3 other full-time things.
Yeah, well, you have to choose.
How much money do you need in the near term?
I mean, we don't need much, maybe 100 to 200. I mean, we're basically going at pace of what we can afford, but if we had 200,000, which is what we would be raising, then we just jump
Well,
in.
Adnan is right. I mean, that's angel money. Have you
Right,
networked with the angel groups? Because they're pretty aggressive along the East Coast right now.
Yeah, we have. We're of course, that's something we're actively
Yeah, if you'd
working
like some help, I mean, I can introduce you to a couple groups and what have you, so.
on. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be awesome. Thank you.